Guitar player extraordinaire, Dane Kinser, is here, with whom I've
You can be extraordinary in many ways, Shane.
which I've had the pleasure of playing with recently. And we, it's funny, we didn't bond with music, really. We bonded more on video games.
Oh,
as
yeah.
it's evidenced by...
Straight to the nerdery.
Straight to the nerdery. And it's so funny. We didn't plan this, but we're wearing Legend of Zelda shirts, both of us.
I'm showing my age here versus Shane over there. Well, no. Never mind. We're in the same era.
We're in the same era, man.
thought I had one on you, but no.
I'll watch football every now and then if my team is doing really well, and if they're not, I'm like, no, I'm done. I don't want to put myself
enjoy
through
going
this.
to games, but it's not what I flick on the TV. And like you, I think my first love in sports probably came because of a video game that I was. I think I liked the Mariners because it was Ken Griffey baseball back in the day.
Ken
you know
Griffey
what I mean?
baseball. Yes. Man, I remember that. Dude, baseball games were fun back in the day.
They're incredible. They're so good.
I haven't played any a baseball game since the
I think
Nintendo
I still
days.
quote some of the taunts from that. Come on, those 16-bit voices that just
you couldn't even understand them.
Dreadful, yeah.
One game that was like that would do that had the voice. I think, at least I remember this as a kid. Did you ever have that game Adventures of Bayou Billy? Is old Nintendo game.
Sure did,
dude. That game was so hard, too. That game...
It was awful.
It was terrible. But I remember
Billy.
in my
Holy
head,
cow.
I remember there's this voice that goes, The Adventures of Bayou Billy, but in Nintendo 8-bit form. So it'd be like...
The Adventures of Bayou Billy.
Yeah. And the whole thing was sort of like a Crocodile Dundee knockoff. It was one of those that looked like they just couldn't get the licensing or something,
Yeah. So I always wonder, is this a movie? Because the video game actually looked really cool with the artwork. With the, he held this girl that was slumped over, and he had this knife in his left hand.
Covers in the 8-bit era were exceptionally dramatic for what was often inside the box. I mean...
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of some examples, but I remember that being the case.
Well, there was this one cover I remember with Fabio on the cover, and it was
Fabio was on a video game?
Yeah, I gotta find it.
Yeah, I need to know. I need this and inject this in my veins.
Fabio video game cover. Yes, I forget which video game it was, and he's holding a sword. It was Iron Sword. Yes, Wizards and Warriors 2.
What?
Iron Sword. Yes. Let's see right there.
That is him. See, I always thought that was Conan, back in the day.
So when you're a 4-year-old child, six years old, you look at that picture and you're like, oh man, I'm gonna be a long-haired, big Hercules looking like dude, and then in the game you're a little knight with a little knife, and you're just kind of stabbing.
Yeah. I'm just laughing that the two people that think this cover is cool is young kids playing video games and the middle-aged romance novel crowd,
I know. Gauntlet was the same way. Gauntlet had that, medieval kind of there's a particular, those old 80s medieval movies. But the cover was way over the top.
Oh, yeah. Marketing 101.
Yeah.
Man.
You are actually a big advocate of the Nintendo Switch. Mm-hmm. And we talked about it many, many times.
Yeah.
What are your favorite games? What games are you into right now for the Switch? Because I don't have a Switch.
It's tough to ask my favorite games because I've only played 5. Because when I get into a game, I squeeze every last bit of the juicy pulp out of it before I move on. I mean, I don't even remember how many hours it said I put into Skyrim, but it was a lot. I mean, a lot more than any sane person needed to put into that
Skyrim
game. It's a great game.
Yeah. It's one of those games that no matter, I have, how many versions of it? I have a 360 version and the PS4 version.
And I assume, I know the Switch doesn't have the horsepower that some of the other systems have. Right. I mean, it's probably close to PS3. I don't know the specs. Somebody's going to call me out on that. But there's a delightful glitchiness to the games from that specific era and that specific engine, like that and Fallout 3 and whatnot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about? How, especially once your character is just carrying like an ungodly amount of items or something, just weird stuff starts to happen. Things get frozen and stuck in time, and
It makes me kind of every time I look at Skyrim on the internet or just think of Skyrim and watch Skyrim videos on YouTube, I always go, man, I wish I had a friggin' PC so I can mod the hell out of it. You know, because that looks like so much fun.
Yeah.
But I'm just a console player. I just
want to play as Shrek. That's the one mod that I see make it into most games. And,
the Shrek mod.
But I've been bringing the 64 out on the bus, which is really fun because we've got a couple people in the camp now that are much younger than us. and I bring out Goldeneye.
Oh, dude.
And they think they know what's about to happen.
They have no idea.
And they don't.
They have no idea.
Not just because, I mean, I'm a purist. I play one-hit kills, auto-aim off, map off, as pistols only, realistic as possible.
Yep. And
so I wallop them in that a few times, and then we start changing the weapons around, and we move to explosive stuff. and the poor guy, like, I could see where he was on the map. You know, I'm screen cheating like any good player does. And like, there's a wall.
The guy I hated to play
There's
against.
a wall between us. And I, having grown up in those times, like, know if I shoot that wall, that the explosion will clip through and still kill him. He is unaware of this. And he gets very angry when that very thing happens.
I totally forgot about it. God, I hated that. Oh, yeah.
But it's the perfect example. What's the Bane quote from Batman? It's like, you were trained in the darkness, but I was born in it. That's how I feel playing old games with these young kids. Like, you have no idea what we went through.
Could you not? I can't remember, because it's been so long since I played Goldeneye, but could you not? You couldn't aim up, could you? You could. There's something about old first-person shooter games that you can't do.
If you go to crosshair, you can sort of go up and down. But as you're walking, basically, no. You can't do it while moving.
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. So those little mechanical differences.
And another thing that the youngsters don't know, that is, do you remember that if you strafe, you actually move faster than just walking?
Right.
And so if you just strafe through the whole level, you outrun anybody. And so they just assumed I had like a faster character than them. Just like skirting up.
No fair. Dude, no fair. Did you do so? When we played Goldeneye, we had one rule. The one rule was no one plays Odd Job.
Of course, yeah.
That's no one played.
Oh.
I don't even understand why they had him as a character because he's so OP.
And the goal socially is to shame whoever would even attempt to pick him. To where they don't even want to try because they know they're just going to get beat down verbally through the whole match. It doesn't matter if they win, that they've lost all respect and dignity at that point. But no, I love bringing the old games out for stuff like that. And Goldeneye, they finally convinced me to do a slappers round, and that was the only round I got beat in.
Slappers round? Remind me what that was.
No weapons. You just slaps.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Which somehow, 80% of the time, you end up killing each other, which, how is that even possible? It's the hungry hippos of the video game world, slappers and 007. Like, it's just chaos. Everybody just mashing until somebody's a winner.
It's weird, 007, because I haven't played it in a while. I wonder how well it has aged. So maybe it's aged in a way where it's still fun because of those differences between, the very first-person shooters and then now modern first-person shooters where there's 360 movement, you have two directional joysticks that you can use. And
I think, as with any old game, there's some things that hold up and some that don't. I think the level design absolutely holds up. I think some of those levels are beautiful.
I think one of my favorite one was the one where you started in the bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
Or it was
the facility.
Facility, yeah.
They all had such generic names. Facility, cave. Didn't even try to make it
Labyrinth.
Cool. Yep.
Yeah, that was my favorite one.
Room. That one's amazing. And especially that some of the levels had like two versions, one of which was like one floor, one had an actual basement.
Right.
So if you're playing with like two players and you don't want to just be lost the whole time. You could choose one, or multiplayer, you choose the other.